Forbes puts an estimate of wealth on Donald Trump. They say he is worth about $3.7 billion. The headline that came out just before the show started was that Donald Trump doesn't want, and he's mentioned this before, but it's circulating again. He mentioned it first on during the debate, and then on 60 Minutes this past Sunday, he mentioned that he's not interested in taking the $400,000 a year salary. And when you consider the fact of we don't know what his his annual income is, but we know he's worth $3.7 billion, $400,000 a year is absolutely nothing. So it makes sense for him to say, that's a pittance. I don't want that. I don't need that. And so that's essentially what he has said. He doesn't want it. He's going to, I think he required by law to take a single dollar, a minimum of $1. So he's taking that dollar. Historically, Herbert Hoover was a self-made millionaire who also turned down his salary or donated his salary to charity. And Donald Trump said that he would either donate his salary to charity or he would return it back to the Treasury. Part of the complication with the conflicts of interest is the fact that he has so much money tied up in a lot of business deals. And particularly the most glaring, there's two that stand out the most. The two that stand out, the National Labor Relations Board just ruled against Donald Trump in the Las Vegas case where Trump's organization was refusing to recognize or negotiate with workers that were on strike, or workers that were unionizing, and they refused to recognize. Just on November 3rd, just before the election, the National Labor Relations Board ruled against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is getting ready to be over the appointments. So there's 5 members of the board, and those members have a staggered terms of 5 years. There are 2 positions that are open right now. As soon as he is in office, he is going to nominate, which he should, that's his job. He's going to nominate 2 people to replace, to fill in the spots. And those people that he appoints, I mean, it happens. It happens like this. Every single administration appoints someone who has an outlook on business and labor relations as the administration. So there's no reason to have ever expected Donald Trump to put somebody in that position for the National Labor Relations Board that is pro-union. He's going to obviously put someone who's more in line, lockstep with his sensibilities and his business beliefs, which is pro-management, pro-business owners, pro-capital. Forget labor. But this is a unique situation because he has business before the board, and he's in the middle of negotiations now that are being forced on him by the board in Las Vegas with the Las Vegas hotels. So there's a great possibility, and there's going to be the appearance, no matter what he does, of a conflict of interest. There was an interesting quote from Rudy Giuliani. He was on CNN with Jake Tapper, I believe, and he was saying that, actually I have the quote here. He said, "You have to have some confidence in the integrity of the president." I don't think that there's any real fear or suspicion that he's seeking to enrich himself as president. Now, it's hard to be reasonable with people who are not reasonable. It is. It really is. Because what Giuliani is saying here, in some regards, is fair. And I'm not going to just attack him because he's Giuliani and he's a prick, which he is. And I hope, anyway, he is a prick. But I can't disagree with him because you can't just automatically assume that Donald Trump is trying to use the presidency to enrich himself when he's worth billions of dollars. However, during the primaries, during the general election, we saw countless examples of how he used his campaign contributions to funnel that money into his own businesses. When he when he charged rent, when he paid rent to himself. When they flew in a plane, they flew in his plane. This has been a method of putting dollars back into his account. Now, whether or not that is just the most practical thing to do, because why would you go rent somewhere else when you have your own facilities? Why in the hell would you go and get another plane when you have your own plane? It does seem rather practical, but it doesn't negate the reality that there are clear conflicts of interest that he's getting ready to run headlong into. It was interesting in researching the story, that there is a mandate that states that federal contracting regulations mandate that government business shall be conducted in a manner above reproach to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest in government contractor relationships. Now, this quote is in context of his second potential conflict of interest that has everything to do with the hotel, another Trump hotel. This time, the Trump hotel is going to be in D.C. He's leasing from the General Services Administration. He's taken out a 60-year lease worth a total of $180 million, and it's a hotel that he's building inside of the historic post office pavilion. Now, the General Services Administration, Donald Trump is going to be their boss. And he's in the process of closing a deal that's a 60-year deal that's worth $180 million. Now, before he became President-elect Trump, this was probably all perfectly good and everything above the board. But this federal regulation mandate says that government businesses shall be conducted in a manner above reproach to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest. I mean, you don't get much more apparent with the conflict of interest when you're dealing with the person who owns the contract is the same person who's the boss over the people who are going to sign the contract, right? He's on both sides of the aisle on this, both sides of the table on this. So there are these huge, and these are just two out of all of the conflicts of interest that he potentially has. Now, how does he avoid this? Because not that I'm trying to give him advice to actually make his next 4 years easier. I'm definitely not interested in making his next 4 years easier. I'm just saying to my own self be true, right? I would, to avoid this appearance, he clearly needs either a complete blind trust, an actual blind trust, not a blind trust where he's calling it a blind trust, but he has given it over to his children, but a real blind trust, or just completely divest from these companies. Which is a huge thing. I mean, it's not as simple as I said it, right? I said it, but it's not that simple. He's going to, that's billions of dollars potentially that he's sacrificing to be the president. But you wanted to be the president of the United States, and I quite frankly don't have any sympathy for you because he's setting himself up for a painful 4 years where think about all the things that could go wrong. Think about all the people who may just do things because they want to be in his good graces, right? Think of people he may appoint that he's appointing and he doesn't even care. He's not looking for any conflicts. He's not looking for anyone to help him out. But there's over 4,000 positions that have to be filled. And then that's, imagine if just one person does something that is, I don't even want to say illegal, because it doesn't have to be illegal in this case. It simply gives, according to this mandate, the appearance of a conflict of interest. I don't know. What does he do? Does he divest? Does he do a blind trust? Or does he say, F it, I'm damned if I'm do, I'm damned if I don't, so just keep it? Here's another complexity. So his children are not able to get paid, but they are able to, let's say, volunteer and work in the White House with him. But if he sells his businesses or divests from his businesses, then they don't really have jobs or income, because for the most part, his children are tied. Their companies are tied to his companies, and their wealth is tied to his wealth, that's how you do when you have money. So, he's kind of entered into a cluster F of conflicts of interest, and it's going to be interesting to see how he actually survives this. Is he just going to go headlong into it and say, I don't care, they're going to attack me if I do, they're going to attack me if I don't? I don't know.